All right, guys. So today I want to share with you a short mini deep dive on something I had mentioned in one of my previous videos. People have a lot of excuses about how they're not able to save money. And I shouldn't call them excuses, I guess, because they're all somewhat factual. But another thing I mentioned in a previous video is this takes a lot of determination, right? And it doesn't have to be homesteading. It doesn't have to be off-grid living and buying raw land. It could be trying to come up with a down payment for your house or paying off your car or, whatever. But everybody, and I mean everybody, can look at their ongoing expenses every day, every week, every month, every year, and make changes to it. I wanted to buy a piece of land and do this whole off-grid living thing and homesteading thing the way that I did when I was growing up. But I have a small business, and I have bills, and I have a wife, and I have kids, and I have dogs, and I was in debt a little bit, and it just didn't seem possible. You have to commit yourself to saving money. Now, I'm no financial guru. I didn't take business classes, and I come from a very simple background, and I like it that way. I don't want to make things too complex. But what I decided to do was write down just a few things that might help you guys out and just kind of give you an example of what I personally did to help with getting my land. So you've got a car payment, and you've got kids, and you've got bills, and you've got so on and so forth. And especially today, things are incredibly difficult. Expenses are through the roof. You name it, it's gone up. Groceries, gas, electricity, it's everybody. Even if you're financially sound, you're still feeling some of the effects of the current environment. So again, just wrote down a few things. So my wife and I like coffee. My wife probably likes it more than I do, but I would still drink roughly 1 coffee a day. I know some of you guys out there are going to go, oh, I've heard something like this before, but have you actually done the numbers on it? So let me give you an example. Our coffee of choice, it's quick, it's easy, and it's one of the cheaper ways to go, is Dunkin' Donuts. So roughly a medium hot cup of coffee, regular coffee, is right around $3, right? Now, some of you guys might drink 2, 3, 4 cups a day in some cases, but I just drank 1. Now, if you had spent $3 a day on a cup of coffee, and that's 7 days a week, at the end of the year, you'll have spent $1,095 on just coffee, okay? I stopped buying coffee. I stopped drinking a lot of coffee. When I did drink coffee, it was at home. I'd buy cheap coffee. I'd buy the Keurig K-Cups, and there's 20 of them in a package or something like that, and it goes a lot farther, right? So $1,095 a year. The second thing, I had a big, beautiful truck I absolutely loved. It was one of the first new vehicles I had ever purchased for myself, and I thought, hey, I deserve this. I work really hard. At the end of the day, that made no sense because I do a lot of work outside of my business. I do a lot of carpentry and construction and hobbies, and I was throwing chainsaws in the back and so on and so forth. And I have the dogs and the kid, and this was an expensive truck for me anyway. And I was using it for all the things people generally use trucks for, and it was getting beat up. My payment on that truck was just about $620 a month, right? So I wrote that down here. I decided that in order to get myself closer to my dream and to save some money in some hard times, that I would have to get something that was better on gas and a cheaper monthly payment, and obviously something that's a little older than the truck I had. So I sold my truck. I sold it to a company called CarMax. And I decided to go ahead and get into a 2017 Ford Explorer. So far, I've heard a lot of bad things about Ford Explorers. So far, the car's been great for me. It runs smooth. It drives a lot more like a car than it does an SUV. It's better on gas than my truck was. Not as good as a car, but again, I have the kids and the dogs, so I needed an SUV. I decided to go with a 4-year loan, 4-year term on this loan versus the 7 years I had on my truck. And right now the interest rates are significantly higher than they were just a few years ago. So I went from having a 5.5% interest rate on my truck to an 8.3% interest rate on my SUV. So that part wasn't so good. But long story short, on the car, I went from $620 a month to $420 a month. Now you take, that's a $200 savings. So that $200 multiplied through the year, a 12-month period, is $2,400. There's a whole bunch of other things that you guys can do. Anything from junk food to if you smoke, maybe instead of a pack a day, you smoke half a pack a day. Try to stretch it out a little bit. I'm not gonna get into any health stuff here. To each their own. If you smoke, you smoke. It could be worse things. But try to cut down on that a little if you can. It's going to be better for you anyway, and it's going to save you a little cash. Breakfast sandwiches in the morning. If you fast every once in a while, it's better for you anyway. Maybe make some sandwiches, eat some cereal more often. I don't know. There's a lot of different little things that you can do, right? But my last thing, so there's 3 that I wrote on here, just the 3 first things that popped into my head, is going out to eat. This is a big one. A lot of people that aren't numbers folks don't even look at this, right? Everybody seems, the people that are working nowadays seem to work harder than ever before. They're spending more and more time away from their families. They're doing everything in their power to get by, to pay bills, maybe to make an extra mortgage payment here and there, or an extra car payment, or get themselves out of credit card debt, or simply sometimes just to live, never mind progress. Like they say, paycheck to paycheck, right? So my wife and I had analyzed this many times over and finally decided to do something about it. We have our own business, and we have our little kid, and we have our dogs. So there's a lot of our time is taken up through the day, right? So we get into work at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we don't leave until about that time at night, sometimes later, especially during the holidays. So just plain and simple, when you work that many hours doing the kind of work that we do, and I can get into that in another video, but doing the kind of work that we do keeps us on our feet all day long. We're tired. We're hungry. We don't get a lot of bathroom breaks. We don't get a lot of lunch breaks. When we do, to be honest, it's not the best food. So we're rushing out of the house in the morning. We're rushing to get home in the evening. My in-laws watch our son quite a bit, and my mom does too. So we usually have to run out and grab him as well. So what does that mean? That means that on a daily basis, we were either consuming Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or McDonald's, and at least 4 out of 7 days a week we were going out for dinner. Now, maybe to some of you guys that doesn't sound like a lot. Maybe to some of you it sounds like a lot. But I decided to kind of go on the lower end of things, right? So let's say you go out 3 times a week. Now, I'm not talking about breakfast. I'm not talking about snacks right now. I'm just giving you 3 examples. Like I said, there's many other ones. But we'll just go with dinner. And I went on a very conservative dinner, right? This is like you and your significant other, or maybe just yourself, but you and your significant other go out and you split a meal and you get an appetizer, right? You're looking without tip usually around $50. As I mentioned, we've been out to a lot of different restaurants. So this was kind of an average. It was about $50 is what we could do to split a meal and get an appetizer, and maybe a Coke and a Sprite or something like that. So if you go out to eat 3 times a week at $50 a whack, that's $150 a week. That's $600 a month. That's $7,200 a year. So on this list we have coffee. $3 a day, 365 days a year, comes up to $1,095 a year. The savings from the car payment was $200 a month times 12 months is $2,400 a year. And going out to eat 3 times a week totals $7,200 a year. So that number is $10,695 in 1 year, just from changing 3 simple things. I know some of you are going to go, well, I'm stuck with my car payment. Okay, then change your coffee habit. Well, I don't drink coffee. And stop eating snacks. Or eating the snacks you're eating, or as often as you're eating. Going out to eat. It's simple stuff, guys. It's really simple stuff. And it's stuff, myself included, that I just didn't really want to do. It just becomes a habit. But this, in 1 year, reducing a car payment, reducing your coffee intake, and reducing the amount of times you go out to eat can save you $10,000 a year. And I'm going to go a step further, because I don't think enough people say this in some of these financial videos that you watch. It's not enough to cut these things out of your life. You know, you hear all these entrepreneurs and these business people online talking about saving and investing money and all that. Here is the biggest trick that worked for me. If you just cut out coffee, change your car payment, and stop going out to eat, you're not going to end up with $10,000 in your lap. Not going to happen. You will find ways to spend that money on other things. So what you need to continue to do is take the $3 every single day that you'd be spending on coffee, and you put it in a can in your drawer, or put it into an account that you've made for a land fund or something. The car payment, so you're saving $200 a month. Well, you know what? Take that $200 a month, pretend like you're still having to pay something, and put it in that jar or in that account. Same thing going out to eat, $600 a month. So you take $150 a week and pretend like you already spent that going out to eat, but instead you put it in a can or you put it in the bank account. And at the end of 1 year, exactly 12 months, if you do just those 3 things, in roughly those numbers, you'll have around $10,695. And that's where I got my money to put down on our land. And the owner agreed to owner finance the rest. You're welcome. Now do it.